So I want to start our show today with something that's interesting. I'm not into, like, what is my brand? I don't know. People ask, everybody that wants to have a brand these days. Everybody's like a pro wrestler. I think I'm an opinionated guy. I think I'm a pretty moderate guy. I can go either way political. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm fairly independent. I think I am an independent voter. And I think I'm reasonably bright. I think sometimes I get off on finding stuff before other people do. I think it's cool that 3 and 4 years ago, I was like, Russell Wilson is a right-handed Steve Young. No. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear his defense. I don't want to hear about Richard Sherman. I don't want to hear about Marshawn Lynch. I don't want to hear about Pete Carroll. This is it. I get off on finding Andrew Luck as a freshman at Stanford and saying, that is the greatest quarterback prospect since John Elway. I get it. That's my thing. I'm probably like somebody, if you were like a talent scout for music and you found a garage band before everybody else, that excites you. That's what I like to do. So about 6 years ago, 6 to 7, John Goulet is a witness. I wasn't working with Joy yet. About 6, 7 years ago, I started saying, Aaron Rodgers pisses people off. Like, watch the body language. He does not get along with people. Nobody calls out anybody publicly anymore. Everything's anonymous sources. With Aaron, guys will go out and take shots at him. Like, publicly. And I've always said this, if a couple argues at a party, what is the drive home like? It's always way worse behind closed doors than publicly. You were hearing dad and you were hearing teammates and, cheesehead guy gets worked up. So Pro Football Focus came out, they did a top 50 players in the NFL. They didn't have Aaron Rodgers in it. I think Aaron Rodgers is one of my top 20 players in the NFL. They didn't have him in the top 50. Be that as it may, there was a lot of outrage about it, and people criticized the list. So PFF came out with the 10 guys who didn't make the top 50 and why. Here's what they said about Aaron Rodgers. He's become even more evidently part of the problem in Green Bay. And his own team spent the offseason laying plans to minimize his role this year and replace him beyond that. He finished last year's regular season as the number 9 ranked quarterback in the league and was 17th from week 8. And here's my thing. Watch him play. It's not a physical problem. His release is the second best I've seen in NFL history to Dan Marino. It's still unbelievable. His release doesn't even look like anybody else. It's like a seed that pops out of his hand. He's got the second best release in the history of the league. He's got great feet. Aaron Smart moves around well. That's not a problem. His arm strength, absurd. His accuracy, damn good. It's a personality problem. 2 examples. Even when he does something charitable and thoughtful and mindful, people call him out publicly. Martellus Bennett this weekend. So Aaron Rodgers goes out with an Instagram picture. I thought it was very thoughtful. And he's saying, listen, man, and Aaron, even on the Kaepernick stuff, was always ahead of the curve. He was like, listen, man, these guys are fighting for racial equality. Martellus Bennett, a retired tight end that played with him, and Martellus has played with a lot of different quarterbacks, took a shot at him. He said, doesn't sound like an ally to me, sounds like a spectator. So you miss me with that BS. Show me one. I don't want to see all these white saviors. It's not true. I was in Green Bay. So he took a shot at Aaron Rodgers being mindful and thoughtful. They went out publicly. Well, call it, it's just Martellus Bennett. 2 years ago, Aaron did a nice thing. He gave $1 million to the people fighting wildfires in Northern California. An incredibly gracious act. His brother came out and took a shot at him publicly. He said, yeah, but you won't call mom and see how she's doing. It just feels like an act. When he does nice stuff, people take shots at him. Tom Brady, 20 years, not a shot. So it's not a physical problem with Aaron. It's a mental thing. Is he condescending? Is he snarky? Is he difficult? Whatever it is, we don't even have a comparison in my lifetime to a quarterback that's great. People have banged on Russell Wilson. They don't do it publicly. People sometimes may not get along with Peyton Manning because he's pretty bold, right? They don't do it publicly. Not much, if I recall. I mean, am I nuts here? 2 things to think about. Number one, they're doing it publicly. Nobody wants to be quoted criticizing anybody. They don't want the blowback. And secondly, is that this is what gets out. This is just what's getting out. What is it like behind closed doors? So the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, this is one of these things, and I'm not trying to be right. It's a get it right thing. 6, 7 years ago, I said there's something about his personality that just doesn't click with people. And so a story came out this morning that Green Bay's general manager says we expect Aaron to be here for quite a while. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Stop. You did not give up a first and a fourth round pick to get Jordan Love to sit for 4 years. It's not an Aaron physical thing. Watch him play. Release, arm, accuracy, speed, movement. A+, 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 A+. There is something in the personality DNA here that doesn't work. And even when he does gracious, thoughtful, smart, mindful, charitable things, he gets slammed like nobody in the league. I'm not making this up. I'm not making it up. Once again, somebody comes out publicly. Find, quarterbacks who can be goofy. For all the Baker Mayfield stuff, none of his teammates whack him. He had like a running back and him had a little skirmish. I think it's one of these things. I spotted it 7 years ago, and it continues to be a huge issue. Dalvin Cook is underpaid at running back for the Minnesota Vikings. He's a sensational player. Sensational player. He had 1,600 yards last year in 13 games, 14 touchdowns. He's terrific. He had a shoulder surgery in high school that's a little bit of an enigma. I think he still battles it. Was never seriously hurt in college. Had an ACL in the NFL, but injuries don't concern me with him. I think he's great. And Kirk Cousins is making $150 million over the next 5 years, and he's making $1 million a year. And that's it. This, though, is the problem. His backup, Alexander Mattison, averages 4.6 yards a carry. Dalvin Cook averages 4.5. And this is exactly what the Chargers got into with Melvin Gordon. Is that the system they ran with their offensive line, there was not a gap between Gordon and the backups. And you just can't pay in a salary cap league big money when there's not a gap in talent or performance or production. And so they let Melvin Gordon, a guy they liked, a guy they drafted, a guy they were a fan of, they let him go. And I talked to the general manager. They loved Melvin Gordon. But there is a movement in the NFL called don't give a running back a second contract. And I'll let you be the GM. I want you to think about all the rules. If you were a general manager and there are 10 guys on your franchise that you have to put in the top 7 to 8 of salaries, this is my list. Quarterback is one. Nobody would dispute it. I think in the NFL, nobody would dispute number 2, an elite pass rusher. I believe the reason Lamar Jackson is going to last for 10 years is left tackle Ronnie Stanley. That would be my number 3 pick. Number 4, an Aaron Donald, Fletcher Jokes, interior defensive lineman who changes the way you have to block your running game. Number 5, what do the Patriots pay for always? Cornerback, a great shutdown corner. Number 6, a position that frankly matters more today, wide receiver. You can't touch them. You can't grab them. They can go over the middle. You can't hit them upstairs. Wide receiver changes games. Number 7, I'd go Mike linebacker, middle linebacker. Last 20 years, name the 20 best defenses. Virtually 17 of 20 have a great interior captain defensively that calls the shots. I would go number 8, tight end. That's crazy. 5 of the last 6 Super Bowl teams have had the best tight end in the game. It is the one athlete you can't cover. He's too big for secondary. He's too fast for linebackers. Number 9, I'd go center. I know it sounds crazy, but he's the brains of your offensive line. He calls all the audibles. Do you care about your quarterback? And then you get to number 10, and we can make a bunch of arguments, and I tend to be an offensive line guy. I'd go right tackle. You can make an argument for running back, whip linebacker. You can make an argument for a slot receiver or a safety like Jamal Adams. I get all of those. I'm an offensive line guy. I think this league's real simple. Find a superstar quarterback, protect him, and then find a guy that gets theirs. That's the league to me. So I can like Dalvin Cook. I can think he's wildly underappreciated. I can like everything about him. And I can't pay him. I can't pay him. What am I going to do? What? Alexander Mattison averages more yards per carry. What do you do? So I think Dalvin Cook's in one of those positions. And it doesn't matter if it's media, if it's law, if it's medicine, if it's landscaping, if it's car dealerships. There are positions in industries that are hard to pay the big bucks to. You just can't make it work. And the NFL's got a salary cap league. I love Dalvin Cook. I think he's great. I'm not sure I can pay him. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.